Okay, so after a 3-year wait, numerous controversies, including delayed accounts and a showdown with the Chancellor, Revolut have finally been approved and received a preliminary UK banking license. 3 years is a long time to wait. Licenses are usually awarded within 12 months. Back in 2015, when Starling Bank applied, it took them a mere 6 months to be approved. So stakes were high, and a lot of people thought that this would never happen. I mean, I've been told many times and quite condescendingly that Revolut would never be approved. Well, here we are, and through great persistence, they've managed to do it. Or at least they've got themselves a preliminary license, which according to this comment is like getting a driver's license that allows you to only drive in a parking lot with an instructor present. And looking at their press release, they've now entered the mobilization stage, or authorization with restrictions, and nothing changes for UK customers at this time. So an example of a restriction is that Revolut, or Revolut New Co Limited, which is the newly licensed subsidiary of Revolut Group, can only hold £50,000 in total customer deposits. UK CEO Francesca Carlisi, not that Carlisi, has said that this is a significant step forward for Revolut and their customers. She goes on to say that it is a tremendous responsibility to be a bank in the UK, and we will work relentlessly to offer products and services that improves the financial lives of everyone who uses Revolut. And like me, you're probably wondering, well, what can we expect from Revolut, the UK bank, and what products will we see? Well, that's the most exciting part about this. But before we go into that, why have they finally been approved, and why did it take so long? Well, firstly, Francesca Carlisi was hired back in November last year, and she'd previously held roles at Deutsche and Barclays, and had also founded her own fintech, and that felt like Revolut's way of saying, here's someone who's going to take the reins, that has the maturity and experience necessary to challenge the banking establishment, so the likes of Barclays and NatWest, who by the way will probably soon be worth less than Revolut. And I think Francesca's appointment and her work has probably helped with this approval. Then we have their recent announcement that Revolut are moving to a larger office space in Canary Wharf, and obviously making bigger investments in staffing. This reaffirms their investment in the UK and is probably one of the reasons, not the only reason, but it's just like a nudge to say, we're here to stay, we have a lot of capital to invest, and if you give us this license, we'll only grow even more and invest even more in the UK. We've also had a recent collapse of banks in the US, and fintechs are struggling to sustain themselves in a high interest macro environment. But Revolut, and thanks to their large customer deposits, have held strong. Their most recent financial report demonstrates this. Not only did they report in a timely fashion, unlike previous accounts, but they showed a fantastic financial year. Revenue increased by 95%, profit before tax reached over £400 million, and customer balances increased 38% to 18.2 billion. Obviously, these results aren't just for the UK. Revolut is a global entity, but for context, they have 3 times the deposits of UK bank Monzo. So again, this shows a great deal of success and also customer faith, which possibly gave the regulator greater confidence in Revolut's ability to sustain themselves. I also think if this year's accounts were delayed again and had a similar vibe to previous ones, for example, if you remember their auditor BDO, when referring to their 2021 revenue, said that they were unable to fully verify £477 million. Well, if that happened again, this license I really doubt would have been approved, or at least it would have been further delayed. But they've cleaned up, things are looking really mature and stable, and they're beginning to look and act like their new banking incumbent counterparts. One of the other key issues was that their share structure was inconsistent with the PRA's rules. So Revolut basically had to collapse 6 classes of shares into ordinary ones. This meant extensive negotiations with their biggest investor, SoftBank, which they managed to pull off. So that's just a few reasons why they may have been finally approved, and there's obviously many more, but ultimately Revolut will have had some of the greatest minds in regulatory consultancy working on this, so it really isn't a surprise when you think about it. Persistence has paid off. But what does this mean for you and me as Revolut users, and what new products can we expect? Well, at a high level, a full UK banking license, so once they're fully approved, means that Revolut can hold their customer deposits, so they don't have to put them with third-party banks, and they can also use those deposits to offer loans, overdrafts, and credit cards. They will also be granted FSCS protection on deposits up to £85,000, which is probably the biggest thing that will entice people to open an account. I strongly believe that the lack of deposit insurance will have held them back in the UK. I know numerous people, in fact, that have said to me, if Revolut had FSCS protection, then I would use them as my primary account. Well, if you're watching this and that was one of your pushbacks, soon you will have that added peace of mind. Of course, all of their deposits are ring-fenced or secured in a third-party bank, as that's mandatory for e-money institutions, which Revolut were or still are in the UK. But FSCS protection is kind of like a brand identity or perception. It's like putting the Swiss flag on a bar of chocolate. If you put the FSCS stamp on your website, you then get greater faith and confidence. Now, if we look at their European business, where they're licensed as a bank in Lithuania, we can try to take a guess at what we can expect to see here in the UK. For example, in Ireland, they have a credit card that has 1% cashback on all purchases for the first 3 months. They also offer loans up to 30,000 euros with an APR from 6.5%. There's also a buy now, pay later product, which I'm sure we'll expect to see in the UK, especially as this is something that's blown up in popularity, and as a result, there's been an increase in unregulated BNPL credit. Then there's the very futuristic thought that we could see Revolut mortgages in the UK. Now, this will definitely not happen overnight, but it is being reported that Irish mortgages could launch in the first half of next year, although there's little information on how this will look. But I, for one, am very intrigued. Mortgages are the biggest financial decision that most of us will make in our lives, and it's definitely not a product that can be developed with a move fast and break things mindset. This isn't Hungry Birds, this is mortgages. But wouldn't you love to see how Revolut approach them? And I think they definitely tried to speed up approval times and, I don't know, perhaps improve the transparency over the actual mechanics of how you get approved. Well, I imagine Revolut will be looking at how they can have the most significant impact on the mortgage market, as that's what they do. They disrupt, and this will be just another product that they'll look to innovate. So that's a very fun thought. But also, we should be realistic. I don't think the UK can expect Revolut mortgages for a few years, but nonetheless, it's quite exciting, and I really can't wait to see what this UK license brings. Since their founding in 2015, they've disrupted and revolutionized the banking and financial industry, and through transparent products such as great FX rates and fee-free currency exchange, they've forced the hand of foreign exchange providers that were charging hideous fees and offering terrible rates. PayPal. Sorry. And doing so, they wiped out a lot of hidden junk fees that consumers were paying. So they've already had a hugely positive impact. And not just that, but they've also got an app that makes budgeting and spending far more friendly and easy to track. And that app has also consolidated loads of financial products into one place, making our financial lives feel like less of a burden. And in the UK, they've done all of this without a license. But for now, this is a preliminary license. So what does that mean? Well, looking at the PRA website, Revolut are now in the mobilization stage, and I think they'll be expected to submit reports showing their activities and financial position. So they'll be given the PRA transparency over their sales and also negative aspects of their business, such as complaints. They'll have multiple face-to-face meetings, calls, and lots of emails back and forth, and they'll need to demonstrate that they're able to perform just like a bank. Given that they're already licensed in Lithuania and they obviously have the capital necessary, then this shouldn't be a problem. And this stage usually takes a minimum of 3 months to 12 to be fully approved. But after 12 months, if concerns emerge, say around corporate governance or culture, preliminary license could be taken away. But realistically, given that they've had years to prepare for this moment and mature as a business, then I'm pretty certain they'll be fully approved within just a few months. And after that, who knows what this could do to their chances for licensing in other countries. This sets a precedent, and I imagine Revolut will be setting their sights on places like Australia. So let me know what you think. If you're not a Revolut customer, does this entice you to now open an account? And if you are, then what products are you looking forward to seeing? Or do you even care? Maybe you don't care. I'm very curious to hear what people think, so comment below. I also wanted to get the video out as quickly as possible, so please excuse the basic editing, but this is quite time sensitive. See you in the next video. Goodbye.